Hi, my name is Susan Adams, and I'm a Deputy Commissioner at the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. The presentation that you're listening to today is information that was previously provided in in-person information sessions around the state. I'm recording this information today so that you can listen to the information if you were unable to come to an in-person session. No worries, I know it's a really busy time of year, so I wanted to make sure that you could also get the information that I shared at those sessions. This presentation focuses on information for local school programs that provide Georgia's pre-K program. If you are a pre-K program in another provider type, like child care or other public program, we've also recorded a session that is specifically for you. You should listen to that session because it's going to have information that's specific to your budget and your needs. This session today that I'm recording is going to focus on local school systems. I'm primarily going to talk about changes to the pre-K budget, and then I'm also going to share some information that'll be helpful for you in preparing for the upcoming school year. So let's get started. This is a great budget year for the Georgia's pre-K program. A little over $97.6 million was added to our pre-K budget during this legislative session. There was significant support and investment from both the governor and the State General Assembly. This money is a direct testament to the great job that you do with children and their families every day in your Georgia's pre-K program. Programs that aren't doing a really good job don't get a $97.6 million increase. So I hope you feel really good about that. The increased funding comes to increase program access, provide teacher salary parity, meaning pre-K teachers getting paid the same as K-12 teachers, and maintaining program quality. So let's talk about the specifics of the budget. Your pre-K budget comes in two buckets. One is the operating funds that come to you to operate your program, and the other bucket of your budget is teacher salary, lead and assistant teacher salary. I'm going to talk to you about the components of all these pieces, and first I'm going to focus on operating. The funding that comes to you for operating your program comes in three components: classroom, benefits, and transportation. You'll note that by transportation it says new. Now, transportation funds aren't new to the pre-K program. Programs have always received some funding if they transport students. However, it's new that it's going to be included in your operating funds, and it's different how it's going to be calculated. So I'll talk to you about that today. First, I'm going to focus on operating classroom. There are a couple of different things that happened with operating classroom this year. Now, a lot of the recommendations that came to the budget for increases in the budget were made through a House Early Education Study Committee. That committee talked to teachers and superintendents, to families, and to us about the kinds of changes that needed to happen with the pre-K budget to make sure that the pre-K program remained high quality, we could increase access, and serve more students. So you'll see this clearly in your operating classroom increases. One thing that happened was there's a reduction of the class size to a maximum of 20 students. It has previously been 22 students as the maximum class size. We piloted this past current school year to go down to 20 students, and next year it goes down to 20 students in the budget. Inclusion classrooms will have a maximum of 18 students, and all other classrooms would have a maximum of 20 students. And just as a reminder, the pre-K program can prorate by policy any classrooms that are below that maximum class size, and that happens after the first roster data is looked at. So your August and September payments are always at full enrollment, but starting in October, we could apply a per child proration for every student under that maximum size of 20. We'll make that decision after we look at the first roster data. And as soon as we've made that decision, we'll let you know. Now, classroom operating funds come to you with a flat budget amount. The amount that is per class for public schools is $18,507.63. Operating classroom funds can be used for the materials you need in your classroom, so furniture, rugs, bookcases, but also things that students need, like consumable items, construction paper, paint, glue. Could also include technology that's needed by your kids or by your teachers, and also things that would be used for outdoor play. Operating classroom funds can also be used for other costs for operating your program, which might be operating costs such as utilities that could be prorated to your program, or other operating costs. Now, the number one ask from superintendents when it came to operating funds, when they were asked by the House Study Committee, was what did they want in this area? And the number one response was they would like for pre-K to be included in the capital outlay formula. Capital outlay formula drives for school systems their capital outlay plans. Previously, pre-K has not been included in that. So this General Assembly passed that pre-K needed to be included in the capital outlay formula. We are working with the Georgia Department of Education right now to look at incorporating pre-K into that formula. Once it's incorporated, it'll also have to be passed by the State Board of Education. So there's a process that's going through. As soon as all that is passed, then we'll let you know. There was an operating increase in the budget for private programs, which 24% of their operating cost. The department made a decision to pay out a special adjustment for operating expenses for public schools. This wasn't included in the state budget, so it is a one-time special adjustment, and the department is paying 24% of your operating to you per class. Now, the per class count is for the FY24 classroom count because this funding is coming from the FY24 budget. We're going to pay it out to you in June, but the funding can be spent for FY 2025 for next school year. And you won't be required to reconcile that money until you reconcile your funding for FY 2025. So the funding is available for the upcoming school year. All right, moving on from class. Now I'm going to talk about the operating benefits that come to you. There's some changes in how operating benefits will be calculated for lead teachers. In the past, operating benefit money has always come to you as a percentage of total salary. For the upcoming school year, there'll be a change for your certified lead teachers, specifically for their health benefits. Health benefits will now be paid the same way that benefits are paid for other certified staff in your district. They're paid by a per member per month or PMPM rate for certified lead teachers who participate in the state health benefit program. Now for pre-K, we pay 10 months of the year versus 12 months of the year that DOE pays for K-12. So the rate for pre-K for the per member amount is 1,760 teachers. And you will receive that for your count of teachers who are certified that participate in the state health benefit program. This information will come to the department through your Certified Classified Personnel Information Report or CPI report that you submit to the Department of Ed. And that data is always lagging. So on that report, there'll be a number of pre-K teachers from actually the 23-24 school year, how many of them participated in the state health benefit program, and that number will drive the per member per month rate that you get to cover your certified pre-K teachers for their health benefits. There'll be 2 additional benefits that you always get funding for that'll be paid by a percentage of total salary. There was an increase in teacher retirement system to 20.78%, and that's 28.78% per total salary for your certified lead teacher. And then your Medicaid portion of FICA remains at 1.45%, and that'll also be for your certified lead teachers. Now, for your lead teachers who are not certified, and for your assistant teachers who are classified employees, you'll receive 23.76% of their total salary to help support their benefits. So some changes for operating, however, it remains the same percentage for teachers. So some changes for certified teachers, but it remains unchanged for lead teachers without certification and assistant teachers. Now let's talk about the changes in operating transportation. Previously, transportation has been paid for just Category 2 students who were transported. In the 25 budget, there's a change to that. Transportation funding will be provided for all students. This will increase to an annual amount of $80.78 per student for all students. So not just Category 1 students, but all students. And this will be paid to all programs, whether or not transportation is provided. This is being done to hopefully incentivize the number of students that are transported. This transportation funding will be paid in your monthly payments. And there will be a per child proration if there are less than 20 students on your roster. And that will happen if we decide to prorate in the upcoming school year. This funding will be provided to you in that operating budget. You can spend it on transportation costs if your program transports. If your program does not transport, then the funding can be used for other allowable costs across your program, and you'll just have to reconcile them towards the expense that you used it for. There were 2 additional items in the pre-K budget on the operating side. Now, these aren't paid in your monthly payments. These are special allotments that are paid. Startup and replenishment. There's an increase in the classroom startup grant for new classrooms. It's previously been $8,000. It is now $30,000 per classroom. And we worked to determine that $30,000 is a more accurate amount to supply your classrooms as opposed to the $8,000 that it's been for many years. So $30,000 when you get a new classroom funded to your program. And then we're also funded money in the budget to look at classroom replenishment grants. And that's $15,000 every 5 years. This funding is to be spent on materials from the basic material list. And it includes replacing things like rugs, furniture that needs to be replaced, buying updated technology that you might need, things in your classroom that over the years have gotten worn out or outdated, big ticket items. This $15,000 will help you replace those things. And that'll be $15,000 every 5 years. So the agency is receiving funding to do this for about 1/5 of our classrooms every year. We are right now determining the cycle for giving those funds out. We're going to start with the oldest classrooms first and then work our way back to classrooms, over the history to the ones that were funded more recently. We're excited about this. This is funding that programs need. We don't yet have the determination for that cycle, but as soon as we have it, we'll let you know, and we'll let you know when your program would be receiving that. This is at the classroom level, so not at the program level. And so that means that all your classrooms would not receive the funding in the same year because it's tied to the year that they were funded. All right, we're going to move on from operating funding to teacher salary. Teacher salary is paid to programs to cover lead teacher and assistant teacher salary, and there are several increases in teacher salary and some changes in the process. So I'm going to walk you through these things. The intent of the changes in teacher salary were to look at increasing lead and assistant teacher salary and to improve salary parity between pre-K and K-12 teachers. There are 3 things that happened here. Improving the salary base, so increasing that by $2,500 for lead and assistants. So their base salary is being increased. The second thing is moving lead teachers to the K-12 Teaching and Experience Scale, or T&E scale. And then the third thing is to increase assistant teacher salary to provide pay parity with K-12. We're first going to focus on the changes for lead teachers and their salary. So the 2 things here that we want to talk about are increasing that base salary. So there's an increase of $2,500 at all approved credential levels. So that would be added to the base salary that's based on their credential, and it's approved credentials. So a teacher with a bachelor's in ECE, a teacher with T4 or T5 certification, we have a base salary for that, and it would be added the $2,500. If you have a teacher on a waiver, a teacher credential waiver, then that's an approved credential. It would also be added to that. There is not an increase for insufficient teachers because they don't have an approved credential. So they would not get this increase of $2,500. The second thing that's happening is a move to the state salary schedule, or the T&E schedule for teachers. And that is 3 things under there. Moving to the K-12 base salary for certified teachers. So just like pre-K has base salaries, K-12 has base salaries. The second thing is that the K-12 teaching and experience, or T&E, will replace the pre-K creditable years of experience, or CYE salary steps. And it'll also add a base salary and steps for teachers that have a T6 certification and a T7 certification. Now, this is probably the messiest part of the budget changes for the upcoming school year. And I'm going to walk through those changes and tell you how they're going to be implemented. The reason it's messy is because the K-12 salary steps and the pre-K salary steps are created differently, and they reward different things. The K-12 salary schedule, or T&E schedule, rewards teachers with additional compensation that have higher credentials and more years of experience. The pre-K salary schedule reward is based on teachers with lower credentials and fewer years of experience receiving more compensation. And when you think about that, and think about when the pre-K salary schedule was created, it makes sense. The pre-K CYE salary steps were added back in 2011 when we had some significant budget cuts that caused some retention issues in pre-K because it impacted teacher salary. So the pre-K CYE scale benefits teachers coming to pre-K and paying them more when they have fewer years of experience, and it also has higher base salaries than K-12. Because of that, there's some messiness in moving the teachers over. So there are some teachers that are getting paid more in the pre-K salary scale than they would be eligible in the K-12 salary scale. It's actually about 1,200 teachers there. Now, before we talk about the process for changing over to the T&E scale, I want everyone to know that we're not going to take salary away from teachers or salary funding to you, reduce that. We're going to make sure that teachers don't lose any funding and you don't lose any funding for their salaries. So we'll talk about how we do that, even if they make more in our scale than they do in the K-12 scale. So let's talk about how that move looks. So the salary scale for lead teachers and the change to that salary is going to happen in 2 phases. In August and September, we're going to pay you based on the lead teacher salary with the increase of that $2,500 to the base salary. And remember, what I'm talking about is how we're going to pay programs, the funding coming to you. Then you have to make a decision at your district of how you're going to pay teachers. Many of you already pay your certified lead teachers on the T&E scale. So this will be more about how you're going to receive the funding and then how that funding is going to help get additional funding to cover those salaries for your district. So in August and September, the lead teacher salary will be calculated like this. It'll be FY24 base salary plus that $2,500 increase plus whatever salary supplement they had this current school year in FY24. So we won't be increasing salary steps in August and September because we're going to need some time to make the shift to the T&E scale and figure out where everybody should be on that scale and make the adjustments we need. So in August and September, salary will be calculated by 24 base salary plus the $2,500 plus whatever salary supplement they had for FY24. That'll be how we'll calculate the funding that comes to you. Then in October, we will have the lead teacher salary being calculated based on the FY25 state salary schedule for teachers. That means that we'll move them to the base salary in the K-12 salary schedule and to the T&E salary steps. Now remember, for some teachers, that's going to mean that you've been receiving more funding from pre-K than you have been receiving, than you would have been receiving for them in the K-12 system. So how are we going to handle that? If a teacher is eligible for an increase when we move her to the T&E scale, then the funding will be adjusted for the October to May payments, meaning that we'll move the teacher to that salary and begin to pay that level. In addition, a positive retro will be paid for August and for September. So any money that should have gone to that teacher in August and September for her salary will be paid out to you by a special adjustment in October. Now, you may have decided to pay the teacher that salary all year, and that's fine. That'll just be funding that comes to your district to cover that cost. Now, what happens if a teacher makes more in the pre-K scale than she will be in K-12? Well, if the teacher's current salary in pre-K is more than the new salary step, then the salary will not be adjusted and no negative retros will be taken. So it'll be budget neutral. And that teacher will be frozen at that salary step, meaning that she'll be continued to be paid at that salary step, that pre-K salary, until such time as the next salary step in the K-12 salary schedule would be more salary for her. And that means that that teacher has either gotten enough years of experience to move to the next salary step, or they've gotten a higher credential. That way, you're not losing any money for your funding for your pre-K teachers and moving to this new salary schedule. We have had some questions about what if you get a new teacher. New teachers will be handled the same way. They would get the FY24 base salary plus $2,500, but they would have no CYE in our system, so they would get 0 CYE in the August and September payments, and then in October, if the teacher was eligible for salary steps in the K-12 system, then the salary would be adjusted, and then you would be retro paid for August and September. So a little bit complicated, but we feel like the two phases are easy for you to communicate, and also gives us time to move everybody to that T&E salary scale. Now let's talk about salary for assistant teachers. Assistant teacher salary calculation is easier. There's an increase in assistant teacher salary by 27.5%. That increase comes from the governor's increase of $2,500. That was for pre-K teachers and assistant teachers. So in pre-K, it wasn't just certified staff, it was also assistant teachers. They got an additional increase from the legislature of $3,051, and the total new salary for assistant teachers is $25,741.38. That's the new minimum salary. The funding for this salary increase will begin in your August payment. Now, we are aware that for some districts, That increased salary causes a salary parity with your other paraprofessionals in your district. And we will allow you to request a waiver of assistant teacher minimum salary. If you request this, there's a couple of things that are requirements. You must have a salary schedule at your local district that shows that assistant teachers, or paraprofessionals are paid on that salary scale. And it can be increases by the number of years of experience or even higher credentials. And you have to fit your pre-K paraprofessionals into that salary schedule. You must also request a waiver from our department. That should be in a letter from your superintendent to me. It should include your salary schedule, the reasons why you're requesting the waiver, and then also the salary amount you'll be paying to your pre-K assistant teachers. So each assistant teacher, where they fit into that salary scale. You'll need to submit that for approval by the department. Now, as you think about whether to request a salary waiver, you need to make sure that you're able to meet those conditions. And then also you have to make sure that you are communicating this to your pre-K assistant teachers. That's your responsibility, because you are receiving the funding to pay them at this new minimum salary. And if you're choosing not to do that, then you have to communicate that to your assistant teachers after you've gotten an approved waiver. So the approved waiver is a letter from your superintendent with the required information, and it can be emailed to me, to Susan Adams at the department. Okay, another next steps for the budget. We always post an estimated per child rate chart, and it will be posted on the DECAL website. We are working on that right now, and should have it posted in June. We are also creating an FAQ based on the questions people have been asking, and that will also be posted on our website. There are a few new processes for school year 24-25 you need to be aware of, and I'm going to go through those now. We will be moving to a new IT system in July. So our PANDA system, which has served us well for over 20 years, will be open until mid-June. In between now and when it shuts down around June 20th, we will be making sure the following things happen in that PANDA system. If you've requested a class move or a class closure, those are being done in PANDA. You will also be receiving by email a funding notification letter that will let you know about the funding, the number of classrooms, the sites, and all that for the upcoming school year. You'll notice I said a funding notification letter, not a grant agreement, because the grant agreements will be executed in the new system, Georgia Pre-K, which will launch in July. Once you get that funding notification letter, you'll receive an updated online user agreement. That's for the new system. It's very important that you complete that and submit it back to us. We'll have to have that so you're able to access the new system in July. If you were awarded a new class, we will be paying startup funding. That additional new amount of startup funding of $30,000 per class will be funded in June. You'll need to return that online access agreement so we can send out that new funding. It'll come to your bank account, $30,000 per new classroom. We will also complete all STP functions in PANDA. So if you have a summer transition program, you'll be able to do everything you need to do in PANDA with the exception of reconciling your funds. You'll be able to do that in PANDA, but you won't be able to do it till we open PANDA back up later post go live. Then we'll be opening the new, launching the new GA pre-K system in July. If you want to know more information about the GA pre-K system, there's also a presentation recorded and on our website about that system. We recommend you listen to that. Your grant agreement will come from the new system through DocuSign to your your grant signatory. They'll need to sign it and return it. You will also submit all the things you need to submit at the beginning of the year in the new GA pre-K system. So teacher request, waiver request, your calendar, all those things will be in the new system. Once we've opened the new system, towards the end of July or the beginning of August, we'll open PANDA back up, and you'll be able to complete reconciliation reports for both the summer transition program, if you participate in it, and for the FY24 pre-K program funding. So that'll be in PANDA. We'll close PANDA mid-June. And during that time, you won't be able to, you'll be able to log into PANDA and you can see information, but you won't be able to edit any of the information. Then we'll open it back up in the end of July, the beginning of August, so you can reconcile your funds. Just a couple of reminders about teacher credential waivers. You'll have to do these in the new GA pre-K system. There are two types of waivers. There's a waiver extension, meaning that you have a current teacher who's on a waiver and you need it extended for the upcoming school year, or you have a teacher that you need a new credential waiver for. You'll be notified when those are ready in the new system. The other thing I wanted to touch base with you about is House Bill 538. In the previous legislative session, not this year, but the previous year, there were two literacy bills passed. So in law, the State Literacy Council was established, and then also there was House Bill 558 that was passed that focuses on literacy requirements around professional learning. Now, most of that is around K-3 classrooms and K-3 teachers, and the requirements that school systems have to meet for them around literacy, professional learning, and literacy practices in their classroom. And all of that goes into effect for K-3 classrooms on July 1, 2024. However, 528 includes one line about pre-K and birth to 5 teachers that says beginning July 1, 2025, DECAL will require teachers in all programs, licensed or commissions, to receive training on developmentally appropriate evidence-based literacy instruction. So this is for teachers in birth to 5 settings, including Georgia pre-K teachers. And DECAL is working on developing training for that. Now for Georgia pre-K lead and assistant teachers, they're required to go to annual training that we provide through the Best Practices Training Division at Georgia State University. We are developing a course for the school year FY 25-26 that will make sure that they get this literacy training so they can meet this requirement by this deadline with the funding through the pre-K training. Now, Many of your systems are busily implementing the requirement for K-3. And if you're implementing a literacy training, you're welcome to include your pre-K teachers, and they should participate if it is appropriate for pre-K instruction. If you're doing that, including pre-K teachers in the curriculum that you're rolling out, so you may be rolling out letters or another appropriate literacy program, include your pre-K teachers if your district decides to. Make sure, though, that whatever you're implementing is appropriate for pre-K instruction, and then let your specialists know what they're doing and include them in the training if it's possible, so they'll be able to support your teachers and know what's going on in your classrooms. If you're going to be implementing a supplementary literacy curriculum for pre-K, you'll need to submit that for approval. And you'll be able to submit that to us in the new GA pre-K system so we can approve it through that. If you have any questions, talk to your pre-K specialist. All right, I know I've put out a lot of information today about the budget and upcoming changes for next year. If you have questions about any of this, feel free to reach out to me directly, or you can talk with your pre-K specialist, or you can email our pre-K at decal.ga.gov email, and we'll answer the questions. We'll also be sending out email updates to pre-K providers and posting more information on our pre-K website. So keep checking back there. And we are launching our new GA Pre-K IT platform in July. And there is another webinar or presentation that's recorded about that. And I encourage you to listen to that because it's going to give you a lot of information about the new system, and it'll tell you all the information you know to be ready to log in and be ready to enter your information in that system, to submit your grant agreement, to update your teacher information, and all those things you need to do in order to be paid. So please take a look at that. Thank you for listening to the presentation today. I appreciate all of your hard work and dedication to the pre-K program. And if you have questions, please reach out. I'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much.